I know, Lisa, you had a question. I hope you remember it because I went on for a while. So.
Thanks, Yats. That was super powerful. I needed to hear that so much because, you know, it's been 2 weeks since the Gauntlet ended, and I'm currently in a struggle of trying to discover my feminine and trying to like hold on to those values of trust and serendipity. But it's hard, you know. But yeah, my question is, I guess it has to do with trying to identify wounded masculine, because sometimes it's hard sometimes to figure out if somebody is a secure masculine or wounded. My question has to do with time. Like when you see somebody, a man who, like you said, ambitious is good, right? Somebody who has a plan is good. But how do you sort of make the distinction between the way they handle time? Like if you're saying like a strong masculine man is probably somebody who takes care of himself, does that mean that he, you know, spends like a lot of his time, like, are you saying that he's a person who lives a balanced lifestyle of like the right amount of rest, right amount of ambition, you know, right amount of investing in the right things versus someone who is working a lot, you know, because like working a lot in spurts is fine, I guess, but I guess it's like, what is it like the overworking saying, right? Like maybe some people overwork to escape, maybe some people overwork to overcompensate.
So
yeah,
there's two things I want to do first. First, I want to put this aside because I think this question is less important than something else I want to show you, right? And I know you're on that. Remember, I talked to you, all of you graduated from the Gauntlet, especially the most recent ones, about that journey, right? When you first finish, suddenly you've had all of this intense inner work disappear. So now you have to face your demons on your own. So you're like, oh shit, now this challenge is like, I got to learn how to do this right now. So there's that dip before you overtake it. And then it's just constantly like this. So you're in that stage and I get it. And that will last you a few weeks, maybe months. It's so valuable though. Because in this dip is you constantly questioning and asking yourself, how am I showing up for me? Now, I want to tell you something. You don't realize, and I can already tell you, one very powerful way in which you've showed up in your feminine, but you haven't validated it. Can you guess what that is? Think about what you talked about when you opened this conversation up today.
I said that I've been struggling to try to...
Not this one. When we first opened up and I said, how are you doing, Lisa? And I asked you something.
Yeah, you're asking me like, how is my move, right? And I said that it feels like home. Like if I feel like things just been flowing, it's been working out.
Okay, so let's evaluate that for a second. Who asked you to move to the space you moved to?
I did. No one else did, just me.
No one else? Okay. Who said this will be the perfect place for you to feel at home, Lisa?
Totally me. That was all my intuition. Yeah.
Was it imprinted on like a brochure that you read about the place you were going to that, Lisa, this place is for home for you? No. It was only you that listened to something which you can't explain. You have no idea where, how, even the fact, you don't even know that you listened to it until I brought it up right now. But you just listened and trusted. What has it led to in this place? A feeling of home? A feeling of like this security, right? A feeling of, I think I'm going to enjoy myself here, right? Mm-hmm. None of those things were the masculine. All of that was the feminine. Now I'm going to ask you, how grateful have you actually been to yourself for those things? Just honestly, how much have you noticed it, appreciated it, talked about it, enjoyed it?
It's funny because I don't tend to see it. And and it's like funny because like I struggle with self-talk so much. And then I sort of like came to this like realization a few days ago. I was like, I really, really need to create inner security. What does that really mean? And I think what it means is that like, no matter what, I'm going to be okay. It's almost like this feeling that like, I have to just trust that whatever decision I make, it really is the best for myself. Because self-doubt is sort of what kills my femininity.
Of course. Yeah. But don't just say self-doubt kills my femininity. You have to break down what the self-doubt is about, where the self-doubt is coming from. So if you break down where it's coming from, what it's about, it will take you all the way back, just as I used to do with you in the Gauntlet. It'll take you all the way back to where did it first show up with my parents? So when you talked about that feeling of like, you know, we talked about safety, right? That feeling of just feeling so safe, no matter what, it's all going to work out. Think about a crying child. Now, if you have a mother that picks up this crying child and holds his or her head so close to the mother's bosom, this warmth of her energy, her love, the oxytocin fucking flying through the body, doesn't the child in that moment think everything's going to be okay?
Yeah.
Does the child know everything's going to be okay?
No.
But what does it think? It's going to be okay, right? And who's holding on to this child? This parent, this mother that's holding them and keeping them so safe. Now, the question is, in those moments of doubt that you have for yourself, how much have you showed up for yourself in the feminine as like this mother who wants to validate and hold space and like nurture yourself? The bigger question is, how much did your mother show up for you in those ways, right? And you'll notice maybe not enough because of her own wounds, because of her own conditioning. My mom was almost the opposite, where she lived so much in her masculine that in those moments, she would like push me to like what I had to do next, plan for what I had to do next. So I felt completely invalidated emotionally. So self-doubt becomes this baseline in your system because no one has made you feel safe, especially for the feminine. It's so hard to survive with that. So when you bring it back to you, you have to validate those moments you feel safe. Here's why gratitude is the number one way to pick up your vibration, because all gratitude is noticing the things that you enjoy and appreciating them. So all you're doing is you're bringing your focus onto them. I can't remember who said it, but they said, whatever you put your energy to, it will grow. Anything. Whatever you put your energy to, it'll grow. So if you put on your energy on the fact that it's not working out, the scarcity, the men who's like overworking, validating their time, blah, 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 which I'll come to in a second. But if you put it on that, you're completely invalidating all the success you've just had. And there's so much femininity in what you've just had. In fact, for me, just in seeing you, and I've seen you on the Gauntlet, I see you so much more feminine than you were before, in my opinion. And you're allowing more of that to come out. You're just not listening to it. You're not noticing it. And that is exactly part of the problem. A rose knows it's fucking beautiful. So it doesn't have to prove itself, and it doesn't have to think to itself, like, I have to be the highest rose to be the most beautiful. Even if it's a rose that's hidden, it knows its beauty can be seen because it believes, it notices, and it validates its worth. That is also the responsibility of the feminine. So that's where the masculine energy comes in, is in taking accountability to validate myself. Taking, like, for example, your move was all about intuition and listening to your intuition, but the action is the masculine element. The action of like, I am going to go after this and take it. That is you supporting your intuition. Now, when you get into a strong relationship, you will have that feeling possibly with a man where you may say, I have this feeling about this and we should move here or go somewhere. And a man who's truly connected to you and believes in your intuition will do it, no questions asked. And that's also what leads to the collective success. So you, in my opinion, and this goes to all of you beautiful women and men here, all of you, gratitude is for everybody. You need to appreciate where you're actually having success more. That's also what gets you to rest, right? By you validating that just as I am, I'm so fucking amazing, you maybe tell yourself, well, maybe I should just be. Maybe I should just sit back and enjoy me. Enjoy the trees, enjoy myself. I don't have to do something. I don't have to pick up my phone. I think the phone has been one of the most detrimental things to our own self-worth and value because it keeps us perpetually stimulated and engaged in something else. So we don't even know like who we are just on our own, which is why we hate silence. We hate like sitting by ourselves. So all of these things is where, in my opinion, you need to pull back and notice yourself. Now, onto your question, I'm going to spend only this much time on it because I think that question is not relevant. And I'll tell you why. You yourself brought up, you said, how do I know a man about who's overworking and all that stuff? You already know the answer. A person who's overworking for a sense of self-worth is a wounded man. A man who knows how to draw strong boundaries even with his work. You can trust that man to draw strong boundaries with other women, with other spaces, with anything where he needs to be over-validated. Why? Because a strong man already believes in himself. And that's why I'm the first to admit that I was not that man this last week. I was a man who was overworking, who felt the load of like needing to show up for my team and all of that, but I wasn't a good example to all of the women who work for me in my team, to all of you beautiful women who come to me for advice. So I needed to rest. And me getting in touch with my feminine is what also let my masculine feel what? Reset, recharge, re-nurture, ready to go for the next week. So you will already, Lisa, the more you tap into yourself, this is my answer always to people, and you know this has been true on the Gauntlet. The more you listen to yourself, the more you will be able to spot what's good for you. So I don't even need to answer about that man saying like, you know, how do I know a worked, overworked man? You will see it. And you will have a much stronger intuition than I do about what you're supposed to attract in your life, who you're supposed to be with. The goal is to listen to it. This is where dating apps also fuck up your intuition. Because now, in my opinion, and I don't want to like, I don't want to shit on dating apps. So clearly, you know, I have no investments in dating apps, obviously, but I don't use them for the very reason that I think they perpetuate a wounded belief system that I am a commodity on an online space. So now I have to treat myself just as a commodity. My looks are what is going to get me validation, what's going to get me connection. I mean, I've met people who've had good connection because maybe they don't necessarily have the social strength or skills. But I think what dating apps also teach us is a lack of self-belief, because it perpetuates the idea of continuous rejection, perpetuates the idea of like only validation of one kind of thing. I have to sell myself to someone. That's not true. When you, and the biggest thing of what it takes away is serendipity, right? If you believe in yourself enough, especially as a woman, a man will actually come up to you. A man will reach out to you. I can tell you because I haven't used a single dating app for, the only time I used it was like 8 years ago when I went through a bad relationship. And I'll be honest, I just needed to connect with somebody, physically, emotionally, whatever. That's the only time I use it. Have never used it since. Even if I go through prolonged periods of being alone, I have faith and trust that I'll meet someone somewhere. I have never met someone on, I don't even meet people through friends. I meet people at parks. I met one girlfriend I had, which was like 2 years, on a bus when I was reading a book and we just started talking about stuff together, at a restaurant, not even at clubs, because in a club, like there's no space for conversation. And for me, I love connection. So maybe dancing at a bar, maybe at an event of some sort. You have to keep your belief system open to that. And remember what belief and trust is? What? Feminine. So that's what brings it all back to the loop of saying validating your feminine will draw a good masculine or a partner to you. That makes sense?
Thank you. Yes. And validating our feminine also means like just being ourselves, like literally not being afraid to like be vulnerable, show our emotions. Like if we're excited about something, showing that, you know, for not, you know, just being us, basically.
Absolutely. Hey, and welcome to the Inner Yats YouTube page. If you like our content, make sure you click the like and the subscribe button so that you get more of these amazing videos that keep coming your way.